2006 season. We'd just gotten the camera up and working, and egg number 1 that we saw on camera, 8:47 in the morning, and that's within a minute or so of the egg actually being laid. Then by then, February 6th, we had 3 eggs in the nest, and as Bryan pointed out last night, this has been a very productive nest. Only one other nest in Prince George County has been as productive since 2005 as this particular nest. And that's significant because this is an urban nest. And you would think that the disturbance factor would have something to do with their ability to produce. But it doesn't appear to be the case. Starting to grow up. See our chicks down here in the corner. And as Bryan pointed out last night, that natal down, which 10 to 14 days changes to their permanent down. So you think intrusion, something new, right? We had just gotten the computer hooked up in the lobby, and Joe Foreman and I were standing up there looking at the first pictures on the computer set up there in the lobby, when all of a sudden the female takes this stance, and she's got her 3 babies down here. And we had a bird in its 4th year, 30 minutes there was a standoff, just a fierce, dramatic period of 30 minutes. We debated, do we run out there and chase the bird off, or we stand here and document what's happening? After all, this is nature happening right in front of us, and of course we were able to record it. This is a webcam photo. But for 30 minutes, it stood right there, and the defense of the female, you often ask, why is the female bigger than the male? Because she's the one that has to take the brunt of these attacks in the nest. And for 30 minutes, she did that. Very dramatic moment. So intrusions are not new, and they come in different forms. This pesky little blue jay right here just wouldn't give up. I don't know what was happening between the 2 of them that particular morning, but it kept hitting, actually hit the eagle in the head a couple of times, and then there was a little bit of a standoff. And when that didn't work, reinforcements. Unfortunately, that didn't work either because reinforcements ignored the whole situation. Right up here, still bombarding the female. And here she is. She just had to tolerate that for about 30 minutes. So finally the blue jay gave up. Actually, I think the female flew away. And that season, 3 chicks. This is maybe 10 days or so before they fledge. And this is learning. You know, I've told you for years now about the 30-30-30 aspect of this. The first 30 days, all they're doing is putting on fat. Sleep, eat, and poop. And the next 30 days, it's building muscle. Those final 30 days is coordination. Figuring out what to do with those muscles, how to use them. And this is some practice. And this is a little session that's going on here. Took about an hour or so. And notice how intently the other 2 are watching what the first eagle is doing here. Coming down off that high perch, getting up a little bit higher on that perch, and notice they are still paying attention to what's going on, and moving a little bit further across the nest. And then number 2 gets its turn to practice, and eventually all 3 of them ended up in that neat. And again, look, they still are watching exactly what's going on. It's my turn, right? And eventually, all 3 of them flying up over the garden here, which gave us a great opportunity when you're trying to identify these birds, and particularly when you're trying to identify specific individuals, it's the plumage that's the clue to you. So here's number 1. and distinct plumage under the wings and the tail markings. Number 2, notice how dark it is in here, different. Let's see, I can't get this thing to back up. Number 1 also had a nick in its right wing, one of its feathers that the other 2 did not have. If I tried to back it up, it would take a half hour to figure it out. Here's number 3. Notice there's a difference. These outside rectrices here have much darker color to them. So they were fairly easy, if you know what you're looking for, to tell the 3 of them apart. So into the 2007 season, the first chick hatched out on March the 10th. And eventually 3 more chicks in the next season here, and starting to grow up, getting fed several times a day, all covered their nape gowns, just beginning to see pen feathers coming out. Now we're getting those flight feathers, getting their permanent, at least first year permanent feathers, called juveniles, Juvenale, rather than juvenile, that first year. And getting a little bit bigger. This was the day that we took them down to ban them. So this, the tree climber, Nate Jones, used Joe Foreman's camera to take the photo. And removing them, this is Tim Knuckles. And without Tim, the banding, the transmitters, that just wouldn't happen. They have been fantastic. Have never charged us a dime for this service. And of course, part of the process, getting weighed, getting measured, getting banded, and getting put back up in the nest, learning how to branch, again, learning what to do with those muscles that they've developed. And this is fledging day, early in the morning, sunrise, June the 1st, 2007. And yes, I was here before 8 o'clock. I know somebody's going to ask that question. And starting to spread out, and here's Mama saying, this is the way it's done. And they got themselves all spread out in the branches. See that? Way up here, here, and over here. And the next thing you know, with a crow escort. It's amazing. You think you're here and you only see 3, 4, 5 crows. The first year, when the first chick fledged, within 5 minutes there were probably 100 crows. They got here from every neighborhood. The signal that they send out must have a specific message in it. We know crows are intelligent. And the rest of us, including Shelley and a few others here, again, we had our racing shoes on, and the bird landed on the berm between the airport and the garden. And this is, I think I know you. It's free. The hardest lesson of all for these guys to learn is how to land. And this guy is hanging on by one talent and hung there for about 3 or 4 minutes before he eventually just let go and flew on off over the top of the rose garden and disappeared into the back of the garden with us running on him. And they continue to come back to the nest. One of the things that we know the least about is the post-fledging period. But we do know, at least with this pair, been able to document, at least for the first couple weeks, they do come back to the nest. And here they are the next day after fledging, all 3 of them back in the nest being fed. Here's Mama standing guard. And here we are 7 days, a week later, all 3 of them out on what became known as the love branch. Love Branch 1, we should call that. There's a Love Branch this year too, in this nest. 2008 season. To say the 2008 season was unique is an understatement. A lot of people in this room involved in 2008 season. But it started out in a new nest, second nest that they had here. And we had to move the cameras and all so forth. Incubating 2 eggs. This is on February the 4th, 2008. February 14th, another intruder incident. Here's the intruder. Here's Mama saying, "You're in the wrong place." One of the things that we know that's extremely important in the life of a bald eagle is agonistic behavior. Learning to know when to fight and when to flight. In this case, there was no doubt Mama was ready to fight. She was defending her nest, she was defending her 2 chicks, and this girl just wasn't going to stay around. So here's the actual confrontation where she made the attempt to chase that first intruder for that season off. Didn't work. And both she and the male abandoned the nest for about a week. We had to make the decision what to do. So the eggs were removed under my permit to extract the eggs. They were eventually sent over to Virginia Institute of Marine Sciences to be tested for various chemicals. And those tests came back proving or showing that the chemicals contained in the eggs were within a normal range of what you would normally expect to find in our environment. This is those 2 eggs, just giving you a comparative. Bryan used a baseball, but a tennis ball is more colorful. The original pair came back a week later. One of the things that we know, that we've learned from years past, that if you want a second clutch on the nest, you've got to get the eggs out that are already there. Otherwise, they're not going to come back. That was another reason for taking the eggs out, not only to find out what might be contained in the eggs, but also to give the birds a chance. And in fact, they came back, and shall we try again? A little discussion, and sure enough, the second egg of the second clutch was laid on March the 19th. That night, there was an incident, we think, involving a great horned owl. They came in around midnight. I think it was startling to both the great horned owl and the bald eagle. She jumped up and unfortunately crushed both the eggs. And this is the 22nd, 2 days later. She laid a 3rd egg. So we know she had at least 5 eggs that she laid that particular season. And this egg became the eagle that we know today as Buddy. And hatched out on April the 27th. And the first clue that we might have an incident with the bird came on May the 14th. The light was not very good in the nest on the 14th, and I didn't get the greatest photos with the webcam, but there was something growing on the bird's beak, or stuck on the beak. At that point in time, it was probably just food. But when it was still there the next day, I sent a couple of the photos to Dr. Bird, to Dr. Watts, to Lisa Barlow, who's a rehabilitator here in the area. Lisa sent those photos on to a wildlife pathologist out in California. The next day, one of the photographers, Jim Deal, got an outstanding crystal clear photo of the eaglet with its head sticking out over the edge of the nest. And it was obvious from that photo that this wasn't just a piece of food stuck on the side of its beak. And the wheels were set in motion at that time to get the necessary permissions, get the necessary personnel, including the state veterinarian, to come down and find out what's going on. We need to remove the bird from the nest to find out just exactly what's happening. So again, Knuckles Tree Care came down on May 22nd. Took about a week to get all the wheels set in motion, get everybody in place that needed to be in place to get the bird out of the nest. So this is Knuckles going up in the tree to remove the bird, and this is Buddy. You can see the growth coming out. I debated how much of this to put in because it's pretty graphic. And this is what the growth looked like. This was so unique. And Ed Clark will tell you this as well. No one had ever seen this particular situation. Normally, avian pox grows on soft tissue, so you'll see it around the eyeliners, you'll see it on their feet. You don't see it in the hard surfaces. What we didn't understand, didn't know at the time, was the upper mandible had split open somehow. We don't know. We also don't know how she ended up contracting the avian pox. Most likely from a mosquito. They're the most common carrier. They don't get the disease themselves, but they're a carrier. They can take it from one animal to another. But we don't know. That's always a question we're going to have. We'll never have the answer to that. But eventually, as we all know, ended up at the Wildlife Center under the care of Ed Clark and his outstanding staff up there. And here's Dr. Sleeman from the Virginia State Department of Game and Inland Fisheries veterinarian, and Steve Living, taking their first look, took a biopsy, which ended up being sent to 2 different labs, if I understand correctly, because again, no one had ever seen this. So we didn't know whether it was pox, didn't know whether it was some type of cancer, just didn't know what it was. So putting a carrier and taking it up to the Wildlife Center of Virginia. And Ed will tell you more about that story.
This is Libby and Reese. Do you guys mind if I post your presentations on YouTube?
Yes, that's fine.
Reese, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.